Psst, check this out.
Hey there, welcome to yet another episode of the Back Channel. Like all of you and all of us and everyone out there, I've been entranced by AI, certainly over the last 4 years since ChatGPT was released, but much more recently over the last, call it 6 to 12 months, as access to AI-based development processes and personal agents and all this has started enveloping our day-to-day and how we do our own work. And I've been jotting down just all the little things that are changing in our world. Obviously, there are so many things that are being impacted by AI, but I've been like really thinking about startups in our world and our ecosystem and what has been impacted. This has less to do with specific tactical advice and more just something I wanted to share and some of the crazy things that I'm thinking about in case it gets you guys to think about things and maybe ask me questions about what to cover on a future episode or in a writing. And so here it is. I have a list that I'm going to go through, and some of them have cited sources around where I read about it. But okay, so let's talk about exit scenarios. Man, it's so crazy to think about what exit scenarios are possible nowadays. Are venture-backed founders all going to be able to get to that IPO? Are they going to be able to fend off competitors as they come in? It was always hard to get to that massive, massive IPO exit. But now, as we think about so many businesses which were built around the moat of software being hard to develop, what does that mean? Well, it's not always what people think about, which is like, oh, or the customers are just going to vibe code their own versions of HubSpot or whatever software you're building. It's more that competitors are much more emboldened and enabled to like spring up and build competitive software products, competitive offerings. And so even if you have a head start, even if you're first to market, even if you have an advantage now and you have massive margins, man, you just got to expect many, many more competitors are going to come. Competitors that maybe don't directly compete with the general category that you're going after, but slice off a niche. And another competitor has a niche that they slice off. So competition and exit scenarios is something that I think about a lot. What about the opportunity to build? Well, turns out it used to be we'd like to see a technical founder and a product and business founder combined so that we have a go-to-market motion and we have someone that can actually build. Well, it's still important to have a technical founder, but wow, you can get so much further without having the deep, deep technical knowledge that was previously required to build things that had software in it. So what are your co-founding needs now? The team needs overall might still and certainly still require some kind of technical leadership. But in the beginning, as you're starting to try to find product market fit, test things and build rough versions, so much more can be done with a non-technical team, a non-traditionally technical team. What about building alongside communities? Oh man, this is something that I've found to be fascinating, but so many people now, and this goes to the same thing I just talked about, which is when people build companies, you would have maybe a go-to-market, a product understanding co-founder, and then a technical co-founder for building. But now, man, if we have someone who runs a community or has access to a community or has following, and it's thematic, it's a community that is focused in one area, the ability then to build a product for them is incredible. And it doesn't even matter if there are competitors out there, because who cares? You have a community that could buy from you, and not only buy from you, but test with you early on, stick with you, tell you what they need so that you come out with an incredible product that so many product developers and founding teams would be jealous of in previous generations of startup founders, where you just have a focused group of people using an early stage product and giving feedback. So one of my thinkings is that building community early on is going to be so massive for people building businesses centered around software. The founders I see that do best in company building and fundraising have a secret weapon. Their secret weapon is a community of people, of experts, of peers in the startup industry that they can ask for help from at any time, guide them through processes like fundraising. I wanted to make that easier for everyone else to have access to by building the Adamant fundraising program and community. This gives you access to 75 different training videos around the fundraising process to give you that expert starting point around how to actually execute fundraising, and then access to a community where we host live pitch deck teardowns and office hours every week to make sure that you can ask the minute questions on how your deck should be better, how you should reform your strategy, how you should answer investors who are reaching out to you that you don't know how to answer. So if you want to check that out, if you want to get the secret weapon that I think a lot of the best founders have, check out adamantfundraising.com and join us today. Okay. Oh, here's one that I love. How many big startups and sometimes really big companies started because they were a potential feature of a bigger company, and it was just a feature that was too expensive, too time consuming to divert resources, way too low on their product roadmap to ever do. And so a startup just peeled off that little bit of an idea, that little feature, and started building and said, well, we're only going to build for this. And then when we have a following and when we have a user base, we'll grow that, grow that, grow that. I mean, the main example I can think of is Calendly. I can think of Typeform. These are companies that generated real revenue. Now, not so much. Google finally released a Calendly competitor, which is an obvious feature add-on to Google Calendar, any calendar feature set. But it gave Calendly a 5 to 10 year head start, and Calendly still has a massive business. I don't think those opportunities exist anymore, because the moment these small feature ideas that people want to start companies around pop up and become important, they'll just get built into the bigger platforms. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to that, and I think there are opportunities to build more narrowly focused versions of those that aren't as generic, but it'll be much harder to fly under the radar and just build one of those features that should be a feature of a product that everyone already uses. What about product development? I think product development, all sorts of versions of elements of product development are changing. I saw a tweet about building in public from Jeff Morris Jr., someone who used to be big in product at Snapchat and runs his own venture firm. But it used to be this big thing where you would build in public because not many people had the gumption to actually build behind you or had the resources to build behind you. And it's just too hard to get people to get started to build behind you. But now building in public is just sharing what people should prompt a first version around. And if they have any opportunity to go to market and distribution, they will compete immediately. Building in public is dead. I totally believe that. Not until you have some momentum and a real product that can differentiate would you even start publishing stuff about them. And then what about product development in general? Like, the process around product development is so different, because product development, as I learned it when I was at MLB.com and working in different software, was, well, the actual engineering and the code writing is the most time consuming and expensive part of that whole process of building product. So there were things like, doing in-depth product development, product requirement docs, PRDs. And then you would do a mock-up and a click-through, and then a high fidelity demo, doing everything you could to get information that would advise you on the right product to build before you actually started writing code, because that was the most expensive thing. But now, code writing, the cost and time required to write code has been compressed by 99%. So what does that change? Well, man, it means a crazy amount of things. It makes way more sense that we would launch a product and have it be messy and get feedback around it and have it out there and actually used before you actually did anything. Like, your product requirement doc is probably just a first version of a product. Anyways, I have a bunch more of these things written down, but I wanted to ramble here. I just think it's a crazy time that we're in. Everything's changing around. The last thing I'll leave you with is that what you cannot do is stay on the sidelines. What you cannot do is say, oh my God, well, Jason said everything is changing. Everything is going all over the place. And this is going to be this. And now they just released Fable. And now there's going to be Mythos. And OpenAI has 5, 6 coming out. And by the time you listen to this, these things will probably be stale. And these model numbers will be like 10 versions old or something like that. But that is not an excuse to say, well, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to wait for things to change so that I can, not do throwaway work. You need to develop your personal skills, your personal understanding of this new world that we're developing in. And your team needs to have the reps and practice around what it means to work AI and all the new mediums and the modalities of working with AI into their system, even if it means they're going to have to cycle through a different model or a new product that comes out. Learning today on something that might expire slightly is still better than sitting off, waiting, and doing things the old way. I remember I waited until December of 2025 to start more actively using AI within product development and coding. And I felt like I was so dumb for waiting all that time when other people had jumped into using Claude Code 6 months prior. But now that I have that 6 months advantage, I really feel like I'm learning extremely fast. So that's what I want from you. I hope, while this is an atypical episode of the Back Channel, I hope it's something that spurs you guys to really rush towards this, learn faster, and continue shipping. All right. Until next time, I'll see you in the next episode of the Back Channel.